Hello, hope you're having an amazing day. Today I want to share with you some of the newest updates that Wix did within the classic editor and also things that you'll find on the Wix Studio website. And I'm going to give you a little bit of I would say a trick or tip that can help you have a little bit more love towards Wix Studio. So if you have questions, make sure you comment, send me a message, and I'll be very happy to help you. All right, so let's get started here. So we're gonna start with the classic editor, and this is just a template website that you already have. So I can show you the things that they change, and pretty much it's gonna be mostly placements of where things are now, but everything's still the same. So if you've been watching some of my videos, this is gonna be good because then you can see exactly what I did and you're still gonna be able to follow just based on these changes that I did. So first I'm gonna turn off the developer mode, and this is just again an example of a page. So one of the biggest things are in the CMS and the datasets. So before, right, so you'll have, let's say, this text and you want to connect it to a CMS, or let's say this image, you wanted to connect it to a CMS. On the right side, now you have the whole dataset panel. But before, it used to be a little bubble that it was like just that you could move around and you can place it anywhere. So that's not the case anymore. So now if you want to add a dataset, all you have to do is just connect it. And then most likely, if you don't have any dataset at all, you're gonna see just the button add a dataset. So when you click on it, you can select your collection. And then let's say if this is your collection, then you are gonna set create. And then right here, you can name if you want. So that's the dataset that you added. And then you can do dataset settings and then you can name it. So let's say I'm gonna name it recipes dataset, for example, and then I can set it to read and write. So again, all of this still the same, and then you can still add the filter, and then if you go here, you still have all the filters that you need. So that's on the dataset. So again, mainly it's gonna be the part where you have now everything on the right side. For the CMS, the only main difference I would say it's on the permissions. So when we create a new collection, which we're gonna do right now, normally you'll have create with AI. This is something that you can tell it what you're trying to do and it's gonna set the things for you. I don't usually like it just because it's not as good yet, but if you want to test it, doesn't affect anything. The other thing is I like to have more control of the type of fields that I'm going to use. So that's why I'll use this one. And if you use import from CSV files, then you can upload a whole collection. And then you just have to go and change the field types, which I'm going to show you right now. So let's start with starting from scratch. We're gonna name this something like players. Let's say it's something for players, and then I'm gonna keep it as multiple items and then create. So once you have this, before I do anything or I start adding any fields, I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna set my permissions because I don't want to forget. You can also do this at the end, but that way you don't forget, you can get it out of the way. You're gonna click on the three little dots and then click on permissions and privacy. And right here, as you can see, this is the biggest change they did compared to how it was before, which it was like almost like a drop down. With this, now you can just go straight to custom and you still have the same items. You have the admin, which is the owner of the website, items creator, which is gonna be similar to author or creator of the content. So in this case, we can do items creator or the person that submitted the data. Can be its own data that can also add it. Can the person update it or delete it? This is something that, again, if you wanna give the ability to the user. And then of course, if you're only using members only, so if you have like some type of membership type of website or classify or listing website, then this is perfect, because then you can also select it to view only by members, and then they can also add data, they can also update, and they can delete. Now, in the next field, there are things that you can set for the public, but if you select everyone, even if it's not visible on the site, using a Wix API, now they'll be able to see it. So you have to know what kind of data you want to display. So for this example, we're just gonna have it as everyone, because usually I like to split certain information or data, and then it shouldn't affect anything. And then nobody else that doesn't have an account can add anything unless it's a public form, or if you have some type of sign up page where they don't have any account yet and you just want to collect information, then you can do add. And then update will be if it was like let's say some type of log that's available to the public, so anyone without an account that can come and update things, that's where you're gonna use that one. And then we're just gonna click save. Once you do that, you want to go back and make sure it was saved. Sometimes there's little glitches, so as you can see, everything is set correctly, so we're just gonna close it. Once we go on the CMS, one of the other things that we're gonna talk about is that the other change that Wix did is that when you're using reference collections, so I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. So the field type, it's reference. So in a lot of the videos I talk about referencing the private data collection. So if I go here and I click reference, choose field, and then let's say I name it something like members, because I want to reference people that already have an account. If I do the drop down, you notice you don't see the private data set. That's because now you have to, we're gonna close this for now, you have to go here under manage, and then you want to go under advanced settings, and then make sure you turn this. So with this one, you'll be able to see all the Wix collections, like the blog, if you have a products website, so you can create its own design and use it. So that's where this is coming handy. And then now when you go to your collection and you add a field type reference, so if we go here, choose let's say members again, and then I do the reference, now you're gonna see it's right here, so I can reference that. And then I can add, for example, a text field, and I'm gonna do just full name. So that's the major changes that they did. The other thing that they did that you're probably seeing it now is a mirror on site. So what this means is, for example, I have a name here, Albert, and let's say this is gonna be Jean. Let's say this is gonna be Jessica, and then here is gonna be Robert, and then here just Fred, right? So let's say you on the collection here want to have a Jessica first, and let's say as a player on a repeater, you want her name to be first, and then you want Jean, and then Robert. So before, you could just have what's called a rating, which you can still use today. And I really like to use this route as well, just because I'm very visual. So I want to add numbers. So let's say I want to make sure Albert is first, Jessica second, Jean third, and then Robert fourth and fifth, right? So the difference is that this takes a little bit more time, but if you use what's called mirror on site, then all you have to do is turn it on. And now anything, let's say I want have Jessica as the second, so I can just drag her name here, and now she's on second. Let's say Fred, I want it to be in the number and after Jessica, so I can just drag and adjust how I want my repeater to look like. So this won't matter too much, but because again I'm gonna turn this off, I'm normally using ratings, then what I normally would do is I will go into my data set. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna add a repeater here so it's easier to show. So let's do element, and we're gonna do a repeater. And let's say we use this one just as an example. And where do you go? Oh, first let me add a blank section before I forget. Okay, and then we can add the next one, which is gonna be the list, and then we can add this one. Okay, so if I connect my data set to add a data set, and then we go to players, for example, and then I click create, then I can add on the dataset settings, right? And let's make sure we connect this one to the name so it's easier to visualize. Then we do full name. Okay, so we have Fred, Robert, Jessica, Jean, and Albert. Because I turn off the mirror, it's not gonna show the way it's on the collection. But if you use the ratings, then you can just go to the dataset and add a sort, and then right here you can select rating, and I will do low to high or high to low, and then it will go according to how I have it on my collection. So those are the two ways that you can use. The other, I would say, not major change that Wix did is that anything that you add here on the element still looks the same, but if you click this option, it's just gonna add it to the right panel. So it's not like before when you click this, you'll have the little bubble thing that will show. And then the other stuff still the same. So when we go to, now we're gonna go to the developer mode, and we're gonna turn this on. You're gonna see this looks exactly the same on Classic Editor. Right now I'm gonna show you what it looks like on Wix Studio, but pretty much this is exactly the same. Nothing changed much here. You also have the public backend and the modules, so this is where you can add them. So again, you don't have to worry about watching a video and say like, oh, this is outdated, because most of the times it's just the placement, but you still have the same exact tools. So now let's go to Wix Studio, and we're gonna close this one. And on this Wix Studio page, let's wait for this to load. One of the things I would say that I really like about Wix Studio is you have the ability to do different breakpoints. And one of the biggest things between Wix Studio and Classic Editor is gonna be that the breakpoints. On Classic Editor, you have desktop and mobile. On Wix Studio, you have 3, which is desktop, tablet, and mobile, but you can add more. You can even go down to like a specific type of iPhone. So if we go here, right, you have different breakpoints right here. For example, if I would add a specific size, I can go down to that that level of having a specific view for a Samsung or for an iPhone or any of those cell phones. So I'm just not gonna add it right now. I'm gonna keep it there. And then the biggest thing I would say on Wix Studio right now that a lot of people struggle is this part. So let me unstuck this, is having things stay on a place where they belong. So we're gonna talk about stocks or stocking or whatever that word is, and I'm gonna show you how to get your life around this to make it easier. So one of the things is that when you stock an element on Wix Studio, you only have 2 options. So for example, if I do this 2 and I stack them, right, I only have horizontal or vertical. So if I go to, let's say, a mobile, now this might not work because let's say the text is too small, the image is too small, so I want to make sure the image goes under what I have here. But if I have 2, it works because you have more control. But what happens once you add a 3rd element? So if I add it, right, and I go here, now you have this element. So if I go to the mobile version, right, and I click here, let's expand this. So let's make sure this is expanded. So if I click on this stock right now, you have horizontal and then you have vertical. So one thing that I'll usually do, and this is a tip that I will give you, is that when you're stacking, make sure to kind of see what you're trying to do on the mobile version, because that will be the smallest point. And I will do one of the elements together first, and then I'll add the third one or fourth one after. So let's unstack this. So I'm just gonna click here. So one of the things that I would do is to have more control. I will do the text first. So I'll select the text and these two, and I will stack them. And now I have these two, and then once I have that, I can add the third element, which is the image. So now I have these three stacked together. So when I go to the mobile, sorry, I can first do I can send this one all the way at the bottom by clicking on the whole stacking here and do vertical, and then it will send it that way. So it will put it all the way at the bottom, and that way I can have my title on a big size, and then I have my medium description, and then this one as well. I could add it if I wanted to, the little arrow that's there, but as you can see now I have it here. The other thing that will save you a lot of time, and you tend to ignore a lot of the panels that are on the right because you're like, it's just too overwhelming, but I'm going to show you one of the things that I really like is that you can always just try to use the tools here. So you have the little blue bubbles once you select on something, and then you can specifically go to an item or a whole section. And if I click on this item, I also like to use these elements right here, so I can center it. I can send it all the way to the left, all the way to the right, or just in the middle. And then the other tip that I will give you is that on any new section, before I even add anything, I like to add a 5% padding on the side. So first I will undo this part so I can just do it on the right, and I'll do 5, and I'll do 5. And the reason why I like to do this is that way when I'm adding things, I will always have this space on the right size. So this is kind of like very helpful when you're going for a bigger screen. Things don't start touching the edge of your website, so it keeps it kind of clean. So I would say those are the biggest things that will help you. And then let's talk about the other stuff that Wix have on their CMS. Again, if you're already coming from classic editor, you're gonna notice everything's still the same on the collections. The permissions now look exactly the same, so there's not much change here. The other thing is the ID. Once you create a collection, it always will stay the same. You can change the name, but you won't be able to change the ID. So this is important to know, because anytime you're doing Velo or using some code and you're trying to get the ID, you might just try to use the name, but if you didn't remember that you use a different collection before, the ID might be different. So just keep that in mind. And then what else will be something new? Velo section, it still looks the same. You have your left panel, the bottom. The newest, I would say, thing will be the code with Wix IDE. I haven't used it much. I'll start doing videos soon about this, but this is pretty much a little bit much advanced than just using the basic panel, but you can still do a lot. And then you also have the CSS classes. This is really cool because you can customize your elements, add specific effects, things like that. So if you watch some of the other videos I already have, you'll see I have done some stuff. And then everything else, again, you're still gonna have most of the elements that you need are gonna be either on your marketplace or on adding an element here. So there's not much difference other than making sure you select the right element. And lastly, just to finish this video, one of the things is any element that you're using, if you're using text, make sure that if you're using any of the behaviors on this one, you test it on the live, because the size that you're using on your editor is gonna be different than what is gonna look on the live of your monitor. So as you can see right now, it's 1280, but if we publish this and then we go to the live side, you'll see my screen is a little bigger, and a lot of the times might not look the same, because again, yeah, I have different things here. So that's one of the things that you have to keep in mind, that things might not look exactly the same. So let me publish this just to make sure, and then that way we can see the updated one. Let me see if it shows here, because I have this one. I think on this one I'm still using the old, yeah, I'm using a CSS, that's why it's doing this. So ignore that, why that's why this looks like that, but it's just because I'm using a global CSS code. Was testing some stuff, that's why it looks like that. But again, make sure that if you're using any of these options like custom scale, the wrap and fix usually is something that will stay the same through desktop, mobile or tablet. And then wrap is good when you go from a bigger screen to smaller. It will just go kind of like, it literally, the name says a wrap. It'll, like, the text will come all the way down into it collapses. So there's things that it will work for, but there's things that might not. Custom scale is really good because you can do them from what size to the smallest, so the biggest to smallest. And then you have scale proportionally, which you also have here maximum. So you want to set a maximum size, which will be 120 or let's say 140, and then the minimum, which is gonna be what you're gonna have on your mobile. Again, hopefully this helps you. If you have more questions, let me know. This video was more to show updates. I'm gonna be uploading soon more videos because I've been testing a lot of things. And if you have something specific, let me know in the comments. Thank you again for the support. See you on the next video.